Hi, I'm Rotractor Sonia Sharma, Joint Entrepreneurship Development Director of Rotrac District 3142. Welcome back to the channel. You're watching the second episode of Be Your Own Boss, BYOB. I represent Rotrac District 3142, which is a youth international organization that focuses on serving the community and self-development of its members. Among many things that we do, one of our key areas of focus is entrepreneurship, under which we conduct several events that help nurture the budding entrepreneurs of the society. With the same motive, we are back here with the second episode of Be Your Own Boss, where we have conversation with experienced entrepreneurs on the show to have an insightful conversation and take a deep dive into the business world. Overwhelming response to the first episode. We now bring you our guest for the second episode of BYOB podcast series, Mr. Rishabh Shetty. He is the co-founder of Viral Fission, a youth marketing firm which is youth community platform that bridges the gap between India's most capable youth and the brands they love. Earlier, Mr. Rishabh has worked in consulting firms and handled clients like Kellogg's and AT&T for US and UK markets. His networking skills are much better than that of all social media series put together, courtesy of his experience in leading a variety of youth networking teams across India. He has worked with the leading marketing agencies of the country in creating exceptional solutions for various brands like Lee Bangalore, Wipro, and many more. Mr. Rishabh has been a national level debater and has represented India in the World MUN. With his exuberant nature and hard work, Viral Fission is doing wonders. His brain is constantly churning unprecedented ideas, and let us dive deep into these ideas. Today, we will have a crisp conversation with Mr. Rishabh on brand awareness, some marketing mistakes that brands need to avoid, and enlightenment of emerging entrepreneurs. Let's hear more from him. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time for us and giving us this opportunity. So, moving on to the questions that we have for you today. What inspired you to start a venture in the marketing industry?
Okay. Very honestly, I've always had. Firstly, a big thank you to you all for Rotrac for making a podcast and inviting me over it. It's a great indeed honor for me. To start, for coming to your question, youth has always been a passion for me, and understanding youth, understanding the changing Gen Z culture, because it is something very dynamic in nature, and marketing has become an outcome of this, to be very honest. And what exactly is marketing is to be aware and understand your target audience pretty well, and that is what I've been doing. I mean, from making sure that being in loop, because I do study analytics. I am an engineer, so numbers is something which I am really, not finance numbers, but in general reading numbers and making analysis out of it. So that is what it has always intrigued me. And for me, marketing is a culmination of networking, changing perception, and also making sure you make great connects. So that is how that Kida got into me. Like, coming to a personal side, I've been an engineer, as I said. So I've always been a very good student. I've always been a nerd, and I've always been in those lines. But to be very frank, during my second year of engineering, I realized that coding is not something my cup of tea. And sadly, every engineer usually gets a job which is into coding, right? And that's where I started doing multiple internships. So I've done close to 8 to 12 internships, like from door-to-door sales to ads, to a little bit of finance, marketing. And then I got a calling, oh, management, marketing is something which is my cup of tea and I would want to pursue. And that's how my journey began into marketing. That's how I got my first job into a media investment company. I was working there as a trainee, but within 4 months, I got as a business executive out there where I was handling certain clients. But again, that was all into traditional media. And that time, digital was not there much yet. Back in 2015. And from there to here is something, my whole journey. And then uske baad se hi jo bhi hua, marketing is something which I took on myself as a whole full time and started working towards it. So in terms of Viral Vision, why I have created my startup, which is in pertaining to marketing and that, I always wanted to have a community. In today's generation, or in today's world, not generation, sorry, but many of it is into ads, and we do into paid ads, paid media. I wanted always to build certain organic, which creates an impact, which not only garners your views and impression, which is equally important, but also garners a good amount of eyeballs and change the perception. So yeah, that's the whole thing for me in terms of that.
That sounds great. Like you mentioned what marketing is, can you tell us about how brands sometimes mislead towards what marketing really means to them and the mistakes that they make?
I mean, it's very unfair to say brands being mistake. That's my bread and butter. But in terms of what, uh, as you rightly said, that now it's more into digitalization, which, and it's very dynamic in nature. For me, the major where the obstacle lies is the gap between the changing platforms and the brand alignment to it. It is very large. The moment that turnaround times comes a little lower, where the brand understands the changing platform, the changing dynamics, and the perception which changes. Now, which I'm talking about, even I come from a background where I'm dealing majority with the age group of Gen Z or 15 to 23, but even that the perception has changed so much. I mean, there's a constant that, I mean, what was there yesterday may not work today. What is there today may not work tomorrow. So I always say that perception without reach or reach without perception,
Absolutely.
it's very, very important. So that is one thing I would want, that to understand the target audience pretty well, and if possible change the old way, old school method. And not saying don't stick to the roots, that's very important for any brands or any, that's their core values, but in terms of understanding the changing platform and getting aligned to it as soon as possible is something which will lead a very major impact.
So you mentioned how there was an old school method and how it has revolutionized. So how is branding and marketing different from when you started back in 2015?
It is very, 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 it has changed drastically. Now, when I had my first job, when I was a business executive in a media firm, I was handling traditional. So I was mainly into TV, print, radio. And digitalization was something was just booming. I mean, it was only 30% of it. And every time, everyone used to say at that time, ki ab hoga, like people will have. Now, from cut to right now, or even 2 years back now, it's vice versa. Now, 50 to 60% is digitalization and 50 to 40% is traditional media. So, the digitalization has, the marketing from then to now has changed dramatically. There, everyone used to have a set method ki itna ads is pe dal do, itna ye kar do, ho jayega. Now, the platforms also decide a lot of different things. Everyone has stuck to one platform or two platform or three platform, which is pretty great. But in terms of revolutionized, because lot of innovations have come up, and how. So I mean, in terms of how it has changed drastically, and it will change drastically, because the generation, also younger generation, or in terms of our generation also, is in the hunger or the need of innovation, is always trying to do something more new and more this, and we don't know at what is gonna get hit. It's as similar like how we never know which content gets 1 million views. We never know. We can never judge that. It's a trial and error method, definitely. But there has to be. I always feel that every trial and error method also has to be backed up with great insights and great data. It may be ad hoc. It can hit at once at a time, and I may agree to that. But since I as a person have always believed that with great data, great numbers, and great insight and great study is something which can lead to. Because even if I come from my personal history or a personal level, like Viral Vision also was started, 2.0 proper Viral Vision was in 2019 November. From November 2019 to May 2020, we didn't start it operationally. Like me, my brother, who's a co-founder and CFO, Abhishek, we all used to come in one room, in this one very small drawing room, and just write down the whole processes. To study data, we should study social media analytics. We should study every single thing, and from there, from that room to the journey, which I mean, you guys have seen The Office. From there to here, the journey has been tremendous in these past 2-3 years. So that is something which I've always believed in.
Great. So how do you overcome the differences between the founders and how to guide the current generation to not be so self-centric and be more inclusive in nature?
Firstly, see, like I'll answer the question on the first, in the founder. So luckily, I've been blessed to have a co-founder like Shreyas because A, he's my brother. So B, that solves the problem. Also, he comes with a very strong finance background. He comes with also a very strong background because he has been a chairperson of festivals of very big colleges, and like he always had that zeal in him, which I know. And I have been from a background where I've always been community networking, marketing in those lines. So that gel was always there, and that understanding is always there. I have always felt that, be it friends, founders, or any relation, transparency is something extremely important, and that is something we are able to manage so far and now. Now, in terms of coping up with new generation, well, my office, 70% of my office comes in the age bracket of the average group of 23, 24.
Oh, wow.
So all are young people. Like even if we have a strength of 100 employees in our office, 70% of them are on that age group. But that is a problem, which I don't think is a problem. Like many people perceive that as a problem because we have always made sure that we nurture the environment of, that every employee or every person in Gen Z has a right to dream, but we have nurtured this environment with protocols as well. Like we have this certain protocols, we have this certain hierarchy, which they also understand. So it's more or less like you do what you want to do, but with certain protocol which you have to follow. And also the benefit, or you can say the opportunity to this young generation to lead the team, to make sure that they are leading a team, they are leading any XYZ projects which they are very passionate about. So even they know that they have been valued much enough. And I feel it's more of give and take method. Like you give some, you get some. So that is how I have been doing both the things.
Great. So for a startup to be more prominent and appear more in social media, do you think the founders need to be faced in terms of being active on their personal channels?
I don't think so. But if you do it, it's very important as well.
Okay.
Like I don't think it's a compulsion. I don't think it's a compulsion because I always feel as personal one-to-one choice. I mean, to be very, but being relevant on social media for a founder to be why I felt was important because A, you're relevant, you know what is happening around, you get a reality check. B, also about your company or in initial days, you know what's been said about. Like for a company like mine, it is very important for me to be on social media active because my bread and butter is that, plus my entire community, this entire Gen Z or millennials are on social media. So if I am not there, I mean, I can obviously trust my employees and get the knowledge from it. But if not, it is very important for me to be on. It's basically right now social media, and because of COVID and pandemic, social media is more like on ground for them, right? So that is one thing. I don't think it's a compulsion, but I think it's very important for it to be.
That's definitely true. So what, according to you, is a measurement for the success of a project or a campaign?
See, if I go with the very technical terms, obviously is the numbers, the reach, the impressions, the views, it goes. But for me, how the perception of that brand, or because of the campaign, the perception towards that brand has changed, and how. The number of eyeballs it has garnered, number of, the people talking about it so organically and speaking is something, for me, I measure the success rate. I mean, for me, example, if someone asks, what is for you a success rate for viral fission or, of those things, like, so for me, it's when the community is very happier about what you're doing. They come and talk to you about it. That is something for me, how I measure. I mean, we also we do our own BLS study. That is brand lift study, which is like where we do a very detailed report of every campaign. I'm coming to technicality. So like where we study the views, impression, we do a surveys, and it is by the community. So obviously the biggest advantage about the community is not only the numbers, but also a change in perception, and B, the more number of eyeballs you have able to reach. Now, example, if I've done a campaign, you have done my campaign, so you have to automatically know about the campaign, and if you have really liked the campaign, you will speak about it. But example, when you post something on social media or do anything offline or speak about it, then automatically you have your 10 to 15 friends who have in a way also got impacted. So that is something, a beauty about this community marketing, which I've always spoken about.
So what is the motivating factor you have for Viral Fission, and how do you want to move forward in the long-term journey?
So example, I do a lot of, so I've always felt that, I've always believed that for any company or anyone, it's very important to be relevant and to be there. Yes. So I travel most of the time to different cities. I've traveled more than 30 cities, and because I have a network over these many cities, right? And even I have a network of, the company has a network of 20,000 student ambassadors. Wow. And we are currently present in close to 700 cities, 3,000 campuses across all the 4 zones. Out of that, even 1 DM or 2 DMs come to me, or in the company's page also, this is the best community, thank you. Or you have made me more confident than what I was, or something like that. I had never ever imagined that I'll lead a team of 10 to 15 people, but now I'm leading a team. There were so many people in my office also, to give an example, that they started off like a very basic, which is we call our ambassador level, to a team leader, to a city leader, to a zonal head, and now they're working as full-time employees also in my office. So, when I see that change in them, that is something very extremely motivating. Obviously also, even in terms of my employees also, even if any of my employee leaves and he goes or she goes for a better opportunity or something, maybe higher studies, in a way, for me, I feel happy when a person is doing, very honestly. And also, at least 2 years back, when we were a startup and we were very, very new in those angles, extremely new, and like, we were about 24, 25 when we started off this. At that time, it felt like, that means the work which we are doing, because at times the founders themselves need a certain amount of validation, right? Are we doing right? Are we going in the right pace? So that is the time actually these people are getting in such good places, and in whatever they aspire or whatever they wanted to be, and the credibility of Viral Fission in their CV or their resume or their LOR is so valid that the brands or the biggest of biggest Ivy League universities are considering it and giving an admit to it. So for me, in those angles,
their
that is
personal success helps you validate.
Yeah, as I said, we are a young company. We also dream, and I would want everyone to dream what they want to be. So I've always, that is something that everyone knows in my office. That's the open concept. So in that way, is something very relevant for me.
What are your views on like paid campaigns and going organically as well?
So there's no views to it. Very honestly, I'm telling. Obviously, I feel organic campaigns has a very much higher impact, but at times, I don't. The only drawback of the paid campaign is the bots which you use, because if you're investing a certain amount of money in a paid campaign, and only when it's a little saddening to see at times ki 60% is organic, or 50% or less than that is organic, and more than 50% or near to it's bots. So basically, it's a waste of money. But it's also at times, from my personal opinion, because in an organic way of marketing, you're organically reaching out to people. People who really want to see it. But at times, what happens if an ad is shown up, if a news has come on social media, even if you're interested, you may not be able to see it. That is how paid campaigns help also. So I'm not saying I'm against paid campaigns as a whole, but if you have something like organic marketing, then why not? Is something that I've always said that. So yeah, so there is, I don't think, I cannot weigh that, this should not be done. Both are required, but in a very hand in hand. But the paid marketing, which is used well, which leads to organic marketing, is something which is highly recommended. So that is something.
And what do you think? Social media pages as well as small businesses and budding influencers, do they require a agency so that they can help them out for their future?
So I tell you, I have a lot of my friends who are
Okay.
entrepreneurs. Okay, like I'm not saying a lot, but some of my are very successful entrepreneurs. Okay, like may have known the names and everything. It depends upon how much you have, how much you know, and how much knowledge you have about it.
Yes.
Now, if you do not have knowledge, then it is very important for you to get a guidance by someone who has profound knowledge into it. Now, if you yourself do a lot of self-study and you gain that knowledge, then definitely you should try for it. But if you do not, I'm sorry, example, if you do not have knowledge about it
Okay.
at all, then obviously you should go for these people. But if you feel that, because I always feel I understand my brand the best, I understand my brand the most. So in terms of the two-way thing, but expertise is always required and depend upon how much kind of knowledge you have, and also it will what extent you want your brand to be. But irrespective of you take an agency or you don't take an agency, you need to be very well aware that what you want and where you aspire your brand to go to.
So knowledge is the key.
Knowledge is extremely the key, and also self-awareness, and also a certain kind of a trajectory in your mind that where do you want the brand and what way you want to go. Brand कैसे भी grow सकता है, but what are the brand's core values, the roots which you want it to be stayed there? That is something important.
Action.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and insight.
Welcome.
I absolutely enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I'm pretty sure that our audience will too. If you have any questions or anything you want to comment about, do let us know in the comment section, and do let us know what you want to see next about the business world. Thanks for watching the second episode of Be Your Own Boss.